Okay, good afternoon. Sorry that I was late for my talk. You were running a bit ahead of yourself, like you said, sorry. Okay, a few years ago, there were massive claims for superficial scald, and then we didn't understand why things didn't work the way they did, and this is how the study came about. We are in the first year of the study, so again, I'm going to explain why we're doing what we're doing, but the fruit are stored until the end of January, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to give you any results as yet. So what is the title of our project? It's quite long. First, we want to understand the mechanism of scald, the mechanism, and then the limitations of all the protocols that we're doing. We want to understand why some work and when do they work, and do they work in combination. So that's part of the study. And then we wanted to assess the risk indicators. Are there some risk indicators that we can see in the season where our fruit are prone? Can we see that it's a high-risk season? Okay, the study is quite unique in the sense that anyone who has ever worked on scald before is involved. It is a massive study. Like all the research institutions are involved. The ARC are now, and Patricia Mataba, who's doing the proteomics, and from Experico, there's Daniel and Ian, and from our side, my two students, Monia, who's not here anymore, and Dr. Pandian, and then Patricia's new students as well. So what is superficial scald? It is a disorder. We all know it's kind of a disorder, but the important part is it's a chilling injury. So prolonged storage brings out this disorder. And so why do we store so long? The question, that's actually quite simple. I'll come back to that now. It's quite simple. We get more money at the end of the season for when there are not fruit available. So we want to store for as long as possible, and even in January, February, when we will get superficial scald in some instances. Just to go back again, the instances, like I said, vary per season. So there's definitely a pre-harvest factor involved. So, and that brings me back to the mechanism. How does it work, and how do these tools work? Now, the mevalonic acid pathway is how alpha-farnesene develops. Now, we know alpha-farnesene is the starting point of all scald. Now, funny enough, this research was done for human physiology, for cholesterol and statins, which work very well for scald as well, but we can't use them on apples, so we need other mechanisms anyway. So this is just an illustration. Quickly, mevalonic acid is over there. This is alpha-farnesene. It gets oxidized, so everything has naturally high alpha-farnesene levels, higher in some seasons than others, but when they get oxidized, they develop acetols and MHO, and those are the things that actually really burn the fruit. And it's really interesting, in the preliminary results, we really see that where there's MHO, you get scald. And yeah. So that's just to highlight that. Interesting enough, they put cetols on fruit and they developed scald. So you can actually have cetols as a chemical and put it on fruit and you will develop scald. So that is definitely the mechanism of the scald development. Now, usually we used to use DPA. So where did DPA work? It is an antioxidant, actually a very powerful antioxidant, which we realize now because we get all sorts of other browning that it inhibited, which we realize now. And that inhibited the oxidation, so yeah. Then we get other things like 1-MCP. How does 1-MCP work? 1-MCP reduces ethylene. So ethylene is directly involved in the alpha-farnesene development, actually. And we know, like in the first 7 days after harvest, that one has to treat with 1-MCP, and that is actually when the genes for alpha-farnesene get depressed by 1-MCP or then the ethylene. Then the low oxygen storage. All the low oxygen storage is also kind of an antioxidant because they take away the oxygen, and especially in the beginning. And then we get also anaerobic treatments. And people don't really understand the ethanol story very well. They think low oxygen is involved, but it also acts as an antioxidant as well. So, and sometimes enhances or not enhances the flavor depending on how much ethanol you get. So these are our storage treatments. We have a DPA RA. We wanted to put that in because it's a different mechanism to all the other ones. We get a RA, a regular atmosphere, to be able to see, is it a scald here? Because it's no use. We don't get any scald and we don't even know whether our treatments were effective. Then 1 MCP RA as a controlled atmosphere. 1 MCP plus CA as a control. R loss and with the usual swing loss treatment. And then plus the 1 MCP. And this is quite important because usually we don't put the 1 MCP plus everything else. Generally, when one goes to Europe, they say that it has a higher risk of developing all sorts of other disorders if we do it. We put the fruit under too much stress. So that is also why we wanted to see having these different mechanisms that inhibit scald might actually work better than just one of these components by themselves. So that's why all the. And what is also quite special is the one I forgot is DCA chlorophyll fluorescence. You get different kinds of DCA, but the one we tested here was chlorophyll fluorescence. And at the end of the storage period, there is a time when you add DCA-CF again and see that the ethanol levels get up to a certain point. And then you inhibit ethylene again. Remember, during storage at the end, there's also ethylene buildup again at the end. So we're trying to inhibit that, whether we're going to be successful or not, so that we'll see. And then in combination with each other to see whether it works or not. That was something that actually the pack houses decided to do. And we would really like to see whether it works in a controlled environment. And it kind of makes sense. So we harvest at pre-optimum, plus minus 20% starch breakdown. The evaluation times, we do it, all the evaluations after storage 4, 8, 16, 24, and 32 weeks. And then, and then we have a 6 weeks RA period to simulate the shipping and the packing. And then a shelf life period for 10 days at 20 degrees Celsius. We've got 5 replicates of approximately 80 fruit each of these treatments. And at harvest, we obviously get a baseline of everything. So through all of these times, we take samples to be able to track like the mechanistic biochemicals. These are the 5 groups that they're classified into. And here are some of the things that we measure. There are also other things that we measure. These are either involved in the antioxidant mechanistic side of workings, or in the ethylene mechanistic workings, or at the end where we see whether alpha-farnesene is there and whether it was oxidized to cetols and MHO. So those are the mechanisms that we are looking at. Then we are very grateful. I don't know much about proteomics, so Patricia Mataba gratefully came to the party, and she is looking at that part, and she's looking at the oxyproteome together with her new student who is going to work on that. And again, that is antioxidant properties or oxidative state of the fruit. We added a sensory evaluation, which was quite an interesting learning experience for all of us, actually. Because we store so long, and a lot of our treatments actually involve having high levels of ethanol, we wanted to see whether we can taste it and whether there's a difference. And we're still in the trial, and we're definitely finding differences in RA, I can say, now compared to all the other ones. But all the other ones actually taste pretty good at this point in time, so we'll see if later on. But it's the results are very, very interesting anyway. So we're doing that in collaboration with Dr. Erika Muller at Food Science. She's helping us with that because it's very different to the stuff we normally do. And there are all of us lined up. We're all trained. We always have to go for more training to be able to smell apple and green and all sorts of other things. So we're very lucky to have her there on board. And then at the end of the day, we would like to put all these things together, put them in principal component analysis to see which treatments link up with which risk factor or has a certain association, and hopefully have correlations, and see whether we can see beforehand whether some of, for instance, CETOS in other countries, they are working towards easy way of seeing CETOS with a spec to see whether it rises, and then they know the risk is high. So we're trying to do a similar thing. So not that that's been published, but yeah, we're trying to do that anyway. Thank you very much.